There's a ton of noise out there. So how do you get decision makers to pay attention to your brand? Start a podcast and invite your ideal clients to be guests on your show. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Hey everybody, Drew McLellan here from Agency Management Institute. Welcome to another episode of the Agency Track on B2B Growth. Many thanks to the team at Sweetfish for inviting me to host this track. I love hanging out with agency owners and talking to them about their business. And that's what AMI is all about. We work with agency owners and leaders, helping them grow their business. So it's not my job to tell you how to build a brand or how to do better PPC, but what I do every day and all day is help you run the business of your business better. My hope is to help you make more money and keep more of the money that you make. And so today what I want to talk is very specifically about that. So when I hang out with agency owners, which I do pretty much 7 days a week, one of the topics that always comes up is the fact that they are super busy. They can't figure out why they are not making more money. And I will tell you that one of the big reasons why agencies don't make more money, even though they are super busy, is because we write off too much time. We overservice clients to the death of the agency. And I will tell you that if every agency stopped writing time off and actually just got paid for the work they're already doing, so no more work, no more new work, no new clients, you just got paid for the things that you were already doing, you would be driving a Jag right now. But that's not what happens. What happens is that our teams disregard estimates, they overservice clients, and there's a lot of reasons for that, which we're gonna dig into in this episode. So first thing though I wanna be able to help you do is I wanna help you figure out exactly how badly you are writing time off. So I'm going to walk you through the math, but also in the show notes of this episode, we've got an Excel doc that's going to make it super easy for you to figure out what is your billability and your utilization. So let me explain those two terms. The billability is how many hours are your people working doing billable tasks. So how many hours is Drew doing billable work that in theory could be billed to a client? So I'm not in a new business meeting. I'm not in an all agency meeting. I'm not on vacation. I'm doing my billable tasks. So if I'm an art director, I'm concepting, I'm designing, I might be doing final art, but I am doing something that in theory, I should be billed to a client for doing. So that's your billability. And then there's your utilization. And your utilization is, did we actually assign that billable hour that Drew did to an invoice? Now, I am not suggesting that you bill by the hour. Very few agencies bill by the hour today. Most of you are billing on a flat fee kind of project basis, but it still starts with figuring out how many hours is the task going to take and figuring out what that flat fee is going to be. So you can still look at the flat fee project price billing and figure out, okay, well, we billed this client, let's call it $15,000, and we bill out at a blended rate of $150 an hour, which, by the way, is the national average. So in theory, that should be how many hours? Oh, shoot. We actually have 50 extra hours more than what that should be. So my billability is 50 hours more than my utilization, all right? So here's how I want you to think about this. I want you to take the number of employees that you have, so full-time equivalent. So if you have 23 employees that work full-time and you have one employee that works half-time, you would take 23.5 and you would multiply it by 1920, so 1,920. And the reason why you're multiplying it by that number is that is 48 weeks a year at 40 hours a week, right? So that takes into account vacations, holidays. Is this precise and perfect? No. Is it close enough? Yes. Some of you, if you're using accounting software that is specifically built for agencies, you probably have a report that would give you this down to the nano dollar. But for the rest of you, those of you that are using QuickBooks or some other general accounting software, this is the methodology that's going to give you the data you need. So again, my number of employees times 1,920 equals the number of hours that I have available that I could, in theory, bill and make money from as a client. So let's say I have 10 employees. I'm going to multiply that by 1920, which means I'm going to get to 19,200 possible hours, right? Everybody with me? Okay, so in theory, if every employee spent all of their time doing billable work, and if I could bill every one of those hours, I would be able to bill 19,200 hours, which would be a beautiful thing. But now what I want you to do is I want you to figure out the percentage of billable hours that you actually build versus what you have available. And the easiest way to do this is to go back. So go back to your year end from the most recent year. Or again, if you have accounting software that is agency specific, you can do this by month or by quarter. But I want you to look at the total gross revenue, and I want you to divide that by your billable rate. So again, if you're a typical agency, you're going to take that total gross revenue, you're going to divide it by, you're not going to take gross revenue, you're going to take your adjusted gross income. So just a reminder, gross revenue is what we bill a client. You have to take out all of your cost of goods, so any media costs or other hard costs like printers, contractors, things like that. And what's left is your adjusted gross income. And your adjusted gross income is the money you actually get to keep. So I want you to take your adjusted gross income and I want you to divide it by 150 or whatever your billable rate is. And you may have some clients that you bill at different rates. So come up with an average that seems reasonable. Divide your AGI by your average billable rate. And then that's going to tell you how many hours approximately you actually billed your clients. So now what I want you to look at is, here are the number of hours that I actually billed. So let's say I actually billed 8,750 hours and I had the availability of 19,200 hours. If I did the math, what I would learn is that means my utilization rate is 45.57%. The average agency, who by the way is making 10% or less profit, is about 45% utilized. So if we can fix that problem, all of a sudden we change your profit number. So your goal should be that 65% of all available hours are utilized, which means that odds are your billability. So again, remember, billable is how much time did my people spend doing billable work. Your average is going to have to be about 75%, because I don't care how good you are. I don't care how disciplined you are going to overservice some clients. So you're never, ever going to bill every billable hour that you work. So the goal would be billability at 75% so I can get to utilization of 65%. But again, as I told you, the reality for most agencies is you're at 40% or less, which is why you are not making the kind of money you want to make. So why in the world, if we're billing 70% of our time, so let's say out of 100 hours, 70% of those, or 70 of those are spent on billable tasks, why are we not billing more of them? Why are we not utilizing more of them in client billing? Why are we not getting paid for that work? Well, it could be a plethora of things, and it might be a combination of things. It may be, and this is a very common problem in agencies, you have too many people. And so there's not enough work for everybody to be super busy. And there's this thing called Parkinson's Law. And Parkinson's Law says that we allow a task to fill the time that we give it. So if you have one too many art directors and they're each given, a workload that allows them to spend extra time on any project because they are not super busy and they're not cranking along to try and get things done, then I promise you that work will fill the time. So a copywriter can write something in 2 hours, but if you give them 8, it's going to take them 7 or 8 hours to write it. It's just human nature. It has nothing to do with our industry. It's just a human nature law called Parkinson's Law. So it may be that you have too many people and there's not enough work to keep all of those people busy at a pace that is reasonable. So they're taking too much time to do everything. I guarantee you that part of the problem is you are over-servicing the clients. So your folks, in some cases, some agencies aren't even telling their team how many hours they have to work on a project. They're just saying, get it done. In other cases, you are prescribing how many hours based on the estimate they have to do the work. But I promise you that people are going over. And they're going over because we want to produce the Mona Lisa of everything for our clients. And sometimes a PDF flyer is just a PDF flyer, people, and we have to just bang it out. And if you have people on your team that are artistes and really care about the nuance of everything they do on every project, that's a problem for you. And you've got to course correct that problem, or they need to go and find a job where they can truly be an artist rather than a marketing professional with a skill in either writing or art or coding or whatever it is.
It's story time, and this growth story is about search engine marketing. Okay, so the story revolves around eSub, a project management SaaS company specifically for subcontractors. Even though eSub had incredible customer retention, they struggled with growth. Being a niche service, they discovered that there was little demand expressed for their solutions within search engines. To take on this challenge, eSub hired Directive Consulting, the B2B search marketing agency. After refining targeting, pre-qualifying clicks with an ad copy, and developing custom landing pages, Directive was able to increase eSub's marketing qualified leads by 71%, while decreasing their cost per lead by 65%. I have a hunch that Directive can get these kind of results for you too. So head over to directiveconsulting.com and request a totally free custom proposal. That's directiveconsulting.com. All right, let's get back to this interview.
The other reason why your efficiency is so low, that your utilization does not match your billability, is because, I promise you, your estimates are bad. We are horrible at estimates. As an industry, we are terrible at it. And here's why we are terrible at it. We are terrible at it because we walk around and we say, hey, we're working on this TV spot. How many hours is it going to take you to do your part? And then we go to the next person. How many hours is it going to take you to do your part? And we do that for the whole team. And then we add up those hours, we multiply it by our billable rate, and that's what we put on the estimate. But every one of those people gave you the perfection number, which is if I had 3 hours of uninterrupted time and I got 8 hours of sleep, and I'm not worried about my kid who's failing geography, and my mom isn't texting me all the time about dinner on Sunday, I could get it done in 3 hours. But the reality is none of us work in that reality. We don't work in that nirvana environment. We're always being interrupted. We never get enough sleep. There's always something about our families or our friends or our coworkers to worry about. There are always distractions of the email pinging at us all the time. And so the truth of the matter is we never, ever give enough hours to what the task is actually going to take. So here is the AMI Drew McLellan hack. Go ahead and do that. Ask everybody how many hours they're going to spend on a project, and then multiply that by 1.3 to 1.5, depending on how bad your estimates are. That's actually what it's going to take to get the job done. We had an agency that was in single-digit profitability. They couldn't figure out how. Everyone was slammed busy. They couldn't do any more work, yada, yada, yada. So I was with them on site for a couple of days, and we decided to use the Drew hack of 1.3. We didn't change anything else. The AEs, by the way, had a complete cow. They were like There is no way the clients are going to approve these estimates. They're already pushing back on price. And we agreed that despite that reality, if it was going to be a reality, we were going to do it for 90 days. And we were not going to relent on this 1.3 factor. So I went back 90 days later, and two very important things happened. Number one, only one client, one time, pushed back on the new pricing. Otherwise, everybody signed the estimate every time and paid the new pricing. And number two, they went from single-digit profitability to 13% profitability in 90 stinking days because finally their estimates were accurate. So for most of you, it's going to be a combination of things. You might be overstaffed. You might be doing over-servicing clients, and that's not a might. I know you're over-servicing clients. And your estimates, I promise you, are bad. So those are the three reasons why your billability does not match your utilization. So somebody always says, okay, do I include the non-billable people when I do this math? Yes, you have to include the entire team because that is a hard cost to the agency. You have to be able to cover and justify that hard cost. And the other reason why is because all of you are both billable and non-billable. What would you do with the owner's time or the leadership's time if you don't include them in that mix? And you're measuring the efficiency of the agency as a whole. Non-billable people help billable people be more billable and stay in that billable space. So it absolutely is got to be everybody on the team. And it very quickly points out if you're overstaffed. And one of the things you may find is that you have too many non-billable people. The metric for that is for every 5 employees you have, one of them can be non-billable, right? But that means everybody else has to be really efficient with their billability and their utilization because they have to cover the non-billable person's time and salary. So if you're saying, you know what, we're super busy, maybe this isn't our problem, maybe it's something else, I promise you it is a combination of those three things. Here's how you fix it. First of all, you have better scope documents that don't allow you to overservice your clients. A lot of times, the reason you overservice clients is because your scope documents are so broad and so general, and they don't include a number of revisions or anything like that. There are no specifics. So the clients can keep asking for stuff, and you have no leg to stand on to say no. So number one, better scope documents, more detail, better estimates using the 1.3 or 1.5 hack. Everybody doing timesheets every single day so you can see where you are bleeding money. Maybe you need to raise your rate. Maybe you need to set a minimum client spend because one of the places that agencies really overservice clients is on the tiny little clients. They are huge drains on the team. They're needy. Typically they're a little less sophisticated. So every agency should have a minimum threshold of this client is too small for us. You also, by the way, should have a threshold for this client is too big for us. We are going to be chasing our tails trying to make them happy. You need to find the sweet spot of clients. You need to have better scope documents. You need to use the estimate hack. And you need to have a system in place for your team that they know exactly how many hours they should spend on a job. And you need to have checks and balances so you are course correcting that in real time because everyone's doing their timesheets every day so that the horse doesn't get too far out of the barn before you can fix it and you can truncate your overservicing. All of those things without adding a client, without changing your billable rate, without selling a new project. If you fix the things that we've been talking about today, I promise you what you're going to find is you're going to make more money and you're going to keep more of the money you make. And that's what it's all about. So please go implement some of these things. Go poke around your numbers. Download the spreadsheet so you can check your billability versus utilization and begin to focus on this. This is an easy problem to fix because it's all within your control. It's not easy to change the behaviors. It's not easy to change the mindset. So I'm not saying you're going to snap your fingers and all of a sudden things are going to get better, but this is totally in your control. And just like the agency I was telling you about, you can put a pretty significant upswing on your bottom line if you focus on this stuff. All right? Thanks for listening. I'll be back next month with another episode. Again, thanks to the folks at Sweetfish for inviting me to do this. If you're curious about AMI, you want to learn more about us, head over to agencymanagementinstitute.com. Happy to have you take advantage of the resources there, our Build a Better Agency podcast and all the other free resources we have. We have a bunch of ebooks and things like that. We're also doing a big conference in May of 2020 called Build a Better Agency Summit. It's the first conference that's really built for small to mid-sized agencies. So if you're an agency of 5 people, it's the right place for you. If you're an agency of 25 people, it's the right place for you. We're going to talk about things that matter to you, not to agencies of 300 or 400 or 500. So I would love to meet you there in person. And if that doesn't work out for you, I will be back here next month with another episode. Talk to you soon.
We totally get it. We publish a ton of content on this podcast, and it can be a lot to keep up with. That's why we've started the B2B Growth Big 3, a no-fluff email that boils down our 3 biggest takeaways from an entire week of episodes. Sign up today at sweetfishmedia.com/big3. That's sweetfishmedia.com/big3.